What up, what up? It's time for the book review. You've been waiting for it. Here it is. Asymmetry by Lisa Halliday. What did I think? Not great. I wouldn't read it again. Thank you for coming to my book review, and we'll see you in about a month's time. Alright, I wouldn't do you that dirty. We're going to go over the book a little bit more in detail, what I thought. But first, quick background. We're going to do this in 2 steps. I'm going to give you my honest thoughts and review. Then we're going to go look online for some, let's say, reading aids, because I'm pretty sure I must have missed something super important. It says in the book that everything will come together at the end, and it didn't come together for me. So I'm going to go online with you guys. We're going to read up on it after I do my first initial review. And then with me, you can come to the actual conclusion. And then you can learn with me about why I'm so stupid. All right, here's the hiccup though. I haven't done a book review in 100,000 years. So let's see what resources are out there. I found this video. I don't know. Let's have a look at it together, see if it's any help.
Hey guys, how are y'all doing today? So I have a
Doing great.
new video up for you. I'm planning to are innately cool. You just have to reject it and let people know you are. Sometimes I have to try harder than other people,
No, not me.
but you know,
Easy for me.
that's just how it is.
Yeah, I don't have that problem.
For me, summer
Boring.
usually takes off from there and hijinks and craziness ensue. That's my thing. But after I give the synopsis, I talk about aspects of the book that really stood out.
Let's do it. Synopsis. Okay, what did we learn from this book? Well, I just want to point out quickly here. Notice how the front cover isn't quite as long as the rest of the book. Doesn't that make you feel uncomfortable? I can only assume that's why that happened. So the book itself is divided into 3 sections. First section called Folly. Second section, Madness, and the last section, it gives it away part of it. I don't want to tell you the last section. Also, spoilers, I will be giving away the entire book. Double spoiler, there's not much to give away because nothing happens in this book. So, section 1, is there asymmetry in it? Probably. It's all about a young editor woman who meets an old, successful, rich writer, and they have a pretty nice relationship. You know, you go through it, you're reading it, and you assume there's going to be some blatant asymmetry. Is he being too controlling, too powerful? Doesn't really seem like it. He buys her a couple gifts, but it seems reasonable. Then you think, is the asymmetry, is she taking advantage of him? Also, doesn't really seem like it. Seems like a pretty quaint relationship. And this goes on for 100 pages. Nothing happens really. They bang a lot, watch a lot of baseball, read a lot of awkward book passages to each other. Cut to me reading an awkward book passage if I feel like doing that later.
Milan had a Chinese look, with his moon face, a somewhat flattened nose, scarcely any eyebrows, a bowl-cut hairdo, and a big moustache that failed to cover his thick, sensual lips. My sweet little whorish Nora, I did as you told me, you dirty girl. I pulled myself off twice when I read your letter.
All right, section 2, Madness. What does it have to do with the first section? Well, up until now, I had no idea, and to be honest, still have no idea. That's how we're going to have to look into extra stuff later. This section, all about a young man who grew up in the Middle East for the first couple years. He was lucky enough to have his parents immigrate to the United States. Once there, he did super great. His brother's a doctor. He's an economist. And the whole story is him flying to England to meet his brother, but he gets held up at security at the border when he gets to England chapters are split up. Him not being able to get into England, and then his background about how it was tough when he used to visit his old family in the Middle East. That's it. Nothing happens. It's history of him when he was younger, and then him still not getting into the country, the UK. He doesn't get into the UK, ever. And then the last chapter the last section is called Ezra Blazer's Desert Island Discs. Now, Ezra Blazer is the name of the old man from the first section that the younger woman is dating. And this entire section it opens with, oh, these were tapes we found or something. And so you get excited, right? It's found material. Maybe it'll be something super interesting. And it's really just, it's just him being interviewed for some stupid radio show. And he plays like 10 old records throughout, and you can tell because they put this nice little stars. That's when the records are playing. All you learn is that he had some kids, so I thought, oh, maybe the kids are related to the other stories. I don't think so. And then at the very end, he hits on the lady who was giving him the interview. That's literally all I took away from this book. I don't know. What else do I have to do in this book review?
To me, usually these are the characters, the plot, and the writing. For characters, I always try to think if they were identifiable, relatable.
It was neat in the first section. It was written in a certain style, and then it clearly changed style into the second section. And then, as I said earlier, the third section was just like a transcript of a radio interview. That section was super lame, even more lame, if you can imagine, even more lame than the other chapters. But the first two were interesting in that they definitely had distinct styles.
Intriguing, if it's action-packed, fast-paced, how's the pacing of the plot? Is there a lot of subplot? Does the plot go in circles? For the writing, was there a lot of reasons are very important, and I think viewers or people who are interested.
All right, viewers, I didn't like it because it just went on. Nothing happened. It didn't. The pace was super slow. Also, though, I kept feeling like I was missing things, so that was a little bit frustrating. We'll see later when we dig deeper into what I actually missed, if that's true. But that was a recurring theme. You know, they make a lot of callbacks to books and music, and sometimes there's pages of transcripts from a book or a play, and you read through it, or I read through it, thinking that I was going to be able to figure something out. And it's not like anyone dies in this book. There's no like whodunit, but me trying to figure out where's the interesting part in this book, and I couldn't do it. Again, maybe it's in there and I'm just too stupid.
Give my rating. You guys know my readable and unreadable. I kind of want to do a separate video on unreadable. How my rating system, how I read it, so think about books.
All right, this is part 2. Let's figure out where I lost it all. So I'm looking at this for the first time with all of you. Why has asymmetry become a phenomenon? Wow. How did I mess this up so bad, right? Please explain the book, Lisa Halliday. Sure, okay. Reddit will save me. Just finished this book. I don't see the connection between the stories. Yeah, me too. I thought maybe the second story is the one that Ezra wrote. Maybe. Yeah, so he's writing a book. I guess he's a writer. He always writes a book. Can you enlighten me? What are your thoughts? Here we go. That makes so much sense. Thank you, Smurf. What could it be? Part 2 was written by Alice. Ezra references it in part 3. Well, okay. I definitely missed that. So she's also kind of writing a book, but alludes to her not being a good writer. Maybe that is why that part was boring. So okay, so she writes the second part, Ezra references it in his Desert Island Discs in section 3. But that still doesn't make the book exciting. Okay, let's just see the rest of this. I think it's a very nice piece of metafiction. Obviously, there are a lot of different ways to approach the book, but the first part introduces Alice as she contemplates writing and her ability to write empathize. The second part, her actual writing, and the third part, a nice reflection on all of that. Does Alice succeed? How does what you know about Alice inform that thought? How does what you know about Lisa Halliday, I know nothing about her, inform that thought? Is the part about Alice inherently truer than the part about Aram? I think that's the name of the main character dude. What does that mean about fiction? You know what? I'm still a bit at a loss here. It's not Ezra but Alice who seems to have written the story about Amar. Asymmetry occurs on every level of the novel, in style, in storyline, and even in the author's life. Specifically, her relationship with Philip Roth, which the novel seems to mirror in an asymmetrical way. So I'm supposed to research this woman's whole life for me to understand this book. So, it seems like the whole mystery and fun of this book is trying to figure out why people wrote such glaring reviews and such wonderful reviews about it. I feel like this is the kind of book when you meet somebody, not that I would go to the, like a hip coffee store inside of a bookstore and they're like, did you read Asymmetry? And you want to sound like a snotty smarty pants. You'd be like, yeah, I read Asymmetry. It touched me to my core. That's probably what I'll say, to be honest. I don't want to sound like an idiot. I suspect even in January, the oddest book I will read this year, as I don't quite get what the author is achieving other than annoying her readers. Yeah, I feel you, bro. Okay, so this woman, the author, Lisa Halliday, did have apparently a relationship with Philip Roth, who I assume if I was well read, I would know who that is. I mean, that's pretty meta, I guess. But again, am I supposed to research all this stuff or just know this about her before, the author that is, before I read this? The second is very different in form and in content, but equally unappealing. It's, more enjoyable upon reflection. Well, it's not hard. I didn't really enjoy it upon reading. Oh, so this is saying the second novel, or second part of the book, may be badly written on purpose to poke fun at the whole genre. All right, back at it. I had some time to research on my own. I have a better idea of, I think, why some people think this is such an interesting novel. So let's take a step back and remember that the novel Asymmetry, in the first section, has two main characters, Alice and Ezra Blazer. Alice is a young 20-somethings editor, aspiring writer. Ezra Blazer is a very well-known writer in his 60s or 70s. It might be clear. All you have to know is that he's old. Now, this mirrors pretty closely Lisa Halliday's younger days. In her 20s, she dated a well-known author who was in his 60s. And that well-known author, of course, is the one I mentioned earlier in the video, Philip Roth. Now, Philip Roth often said that writers should only write about what they know. Now, what's even more interesting is that Philip Roth wrote a series of novels about what appears to be a caricaturized version of himself, named Nathan Zuckerman. Nathan Zuckerman in this series of books was a writing instructor. And one of his quotes that I found, I wouldn't say I found it, I came upon it reading some Asymmetry reviews, is that Zuckerman says, and this is a character created by Roth, I wanted to hang a sign over my desk saying anyone in this class caught using his imagination will be shot. Ground your stories in what you know, stick to that,
Otherwise, you tend, some of you, toward the pipe dream and the nightmare, toward the grandiose and the romantic, and that's not good. Try to be precise, accurate, measured. So this is, of course, interesting because we have so many layers of characters, real, not real, interacting with each other sort of via asymmetry. We have Roth, the real person Lisa Halliday dated. We have Zuckerman, which is one of Roth's characters and a caricaturized version of himself. We have Alice and Ezra, who are based on real life characters, of course. Ezra based on, maybe it's Roth, maybe it's Zuckerman, and Alice based on Lisa Halliday. Now, both Roth and Zuckerman and Ezra, through the book, say that people should only write about what they really know and maybe take it up a level. What Lisa Halliday has done, both through herself, through her own work, and through the imaginative work of Alice, has done kind of the complete opposite. She's written about a man from the Middle East and his trials and tribulations of visiting family in the Middle East, both when he was young and successful in getting there and getting to the Middle East to visit family, and in current times when he's stuck at the airport, likely because of racism. So having understood all that, I think I have a better appreciation for the book. But at the same time, I can't imagine people should just know this history, this background of Lisa Halliday going into reading this book. It's her first novel, so I can't imagine she's well known, even if you're, a well-read, sophisticated man about town, shall we say. So I just, yes, it's more interesting having known all this, but I still feel like I slogged through that entire book. Perhaps Halliday could have delivered the same message in half as many words. I don't know. All right, now I'm going to go over with you at least 3 of the clues that I missed that are supposed to be what gives away that Alice from the first section of Asymmetry is indeed the author of Madness, which is the name of the second section of Asymmetry. So in the first part of Asymmetry, the part that talks about Alice and Ezra, it says at one point, quote, "For her part, Alice was starting to consider, really rather seriously, whether a former choir girl from Massachusetts might be capable of conjuring the consciousness of a Muslim man." And she says this after visiting a Muslim hot dog stand with Ezra. So I guess that's a decent clue if you remember that she in fact said this and then realize that the second part is about a Muslim man. Now this next one is, I don't know who even noticed this, but at some point in the second part of the book, or Madness, the one that Alice writes, it changes from pronoun he to she, and this is supposed to be a big clue. So yeah, as Amar looks at himself in the mirror, the language suddenly shifts the pronoun he to she. Quote, "But then even someone who imagines for a living is forever bound by the ultimate constraint. She can hold her mirror up to whatever subject she chooses, at whatever angle she likes. She can even hold it such that she herself remains outside its frame. The better to de-narcissize the view, but there's no getting around the fact that she's always the one holding the mirror." End quote there. So of course, knowing the secret that Alice had written the second part, or the novel Madness, this is kind of interesting because it's reflective in a sense that it's telling you that, yeah, Alice is actually the one writing this, or perhaps even a level deeper, Lisa's actually the one writing this. But in the moment, I mean, it's so difficult to notice just a pronoun shift, at least for myself. And now finally, in the third section of Asymmetry, which is a pretend transcript of a BBC interview with Ezra, this is supposed to be the biggest clue. Ezra says at some point, quote, "And then all of a sudden, we look up from ordering paper towels online to find ourselves delivered right into the madness." Madness, of course, being the name of the book that Alice wrote. Ezra continues, "A young friend of mine has written a rather surprising little novel about this in its way, about the extent to which we're able to penetrate through the looking glass and imagine a life, indeed a consciousness, that goes some way to reduce the blind spots in our own. It's a kind of novel that on the surface would seem to have nothing to do with its author, but in fact is a kind of veiled portrait of someone determined to transcend her provenance, her privilege, her naivete." So this is supposed to be the best clue. And even this, I'm honestly not so hurt that I missed. In all, I mean, these are tough clues, I think. Maybe if I'd read the book in a week or in a shorter time period, these would have been more obvious to me. But either way, I think they're pretty tough clues to catch. Maybe I just didn't get it.